You won't believe how the story of Jodeci really began. From the outside, it looked like four talented young men coming together to create history, but deep inside, the roots of conflict were planted from the very first meeting. DeVante and Mr. Dalvin, two brothers from Charlotte, were already sharpening their skills in music, writing songs about anything and everything, sometimes even about chicken dinners or childhood beatings. But behind those playful beginnings was a competition, a silent war for respect. DeVante had the gift, the vision, the genius. At just 16, he played Come and Talk to Me for his younger brother, and Mr. Dalvin instantly knew this was not normal talent. Yet, instead of feeling pure joy, he felt something else, fear of being stuck in his brother's shadow. From that moment, every single step turned into a fight for recognition, for credit, and for power. Let me tell you, what the world later saw as Jodeci's creative brilliance was, in reality, a constant struggle. DeVante would bring a beat, and Dalvin would challenge it. Dalvin would produce something, and DeVante would hate it just to prove a point. They weren't just brothers making music. They were two rivals locked in a battle disguised as collaboration. This is where it gets interesting. What seemed like fun in the studio was actually a pattern that would last for decades. One brother refusing to bow down to the other. And while the fans cheered for their hits, the reality was much darker. But here is the shocking part. The drama didn't start in a studio. It started with a gun. Yes, you heard it right. The Haley brothers, Kasai and JoJo, who would later join forces with the D Great brothers, had a violent introduction. Kasai, just a 16-year-old boy known as the Michael Jackson of gospel, pulled out a gun on Mr. Dalvin over a misunderstanding about a girl named Pooh. Imagine that. One moment he was leading church choirs, the next he was ready to pull the trigger on another teenager. The craziest part was that this near tragedy turned into the birth of Jodeci. Destiny took an unexpected turn that day. Instead of bloodshed, it became the beginning of a brotherhood that would change R&B forever. From the start, it was chaos. Two sets of brothers, both talented, both stubborn, both carrying egos bigger than life itself. They were raised in the church but carried the streets in their blood. They were supposed to uplift with their voices, but they weren't afraid to fight when disrespected. And that dangerous mix created music that felt raw, real, and untouchable. Yet, at the same time, it also created cracks in their unity. You won't believe how much tension lived inside their so-called brotherhood. Every note, every decision, every moment was already a silent war. Let me tell you, once Jodeci truly entered the studio together, the war only grew louder. What looked like a group of young men making history was really four brothers fighting for dominance. DeVante had the reputation of being the mastermind, the genius who could craft beats and melodies that sounded like nothing else in R&B, but Mr. Dalvin refused to be overlooked. He handled arrangements, production, even the business side, yet the spotlight rarely shined on him. This is where it gets interesting. Every time DeVante came in with a vision, Dalvin would push back, and instead of building together, they tore each other down. The outside world thought it was teamwork. Inside, it was ego against ego. One example proved just how bad things were. The track Get On Up, which became a fan favorite, nearly destroyed them. Mr. Dalvin believed in it. He fought for it. He knew it would be a hit, but DeVante hated it. Not because it was bad, but simply because Dalvin created it. For hours, they went back and forth in the studio, their arguments louder than the music itself. Everyone else just watched as two brothers turned what should have been a moment of joy into a battlefield. But here is the shocking part. The song went on to be loved worldwide. Millions danced to it, yet inside the group, it became a scar, another reminder of how toxic their collaboration had become. The Haley brothers, Kasai and JoJo weren't free from the drama either. They had their own demands. They wanted more say in the arrangements, more freedom over their vocals, more recognition for what they brought to the table. But the DeGreat brothers guarded the control tightly. What makes this story different is that every single recording session turned into a war zone. Arguments about drum patterns quickly became arguments about respect. Disagreements about melodies became fights about who really created the Jodeci sound. It was no longer just about music, it was about pride, power, and position. The craziest part was how their fans never saw this chaos. To the public, Jodeci looked untouchable. Smooth harmonies, groundbreaking style, and chart-topping hits. But behind those hits were days and nights of endless fights, slammed doors, and bruised egos. Their second album, Diary of a Mad Band, wasn't just a title, it was the truth of their lives. They were going mad inside the studio, and the pressure only made things worse. Destiny took an unexpected turn once again. Success didn't bring them peace, it brought them more battles. Battles that were only going to grow darker and more dangerous. You won't believe how fast the focus shifted from music to money. The fights that once started over beats and melodies turned into wars over contracts, publishing rights, and paychecks. On stage, Jodeci looked like kings. Millions of albums sold, sold-out concerts, fans screaming their names. But when they checked their bank accounts, the numbers didn't match the fame. And that's when the real cracks began to show. Let me tell you, nothing destroys trust faster than money problems. Some wanted to keep recording no matter what. Others refused to sing another note until the business was fixed. That division poisoned everything. This is where it gets interesting. DeVante launched his Swing Mob Collective, discovering new talents like Timbaland, Missy Elliott, and Genuine. Instead of being celebrated as a win for the group, it created suspicion. Was DeVante building his own empire behind their backs? Meanwhile, Casey and JoJo began recording as a duo. They said it was for creative freedom, but everyone knew it was also about survival. Bills had to be paid, and the group's money issues weren't getting solved. Mr. Dalvin also chased a solo career, desperate to prove he was more than just the overlooked brother. But here is the shocking part. Every solo project felt like betrayal, even when it wasn't. The brotherhood that once held them together was falling apart piece by piece. What makes this story different is that Jodeci weren't just fighting the industry, they were fighting each other. Every conversation became a negotiation. Who was getting paid more? Who had more control? Who was signing deals without telling the others? The love they had as teenagers was now replaced by lawyers, contracts, and paranoia. The craziest part is that their second album literally reflected their reality, Diary of a Mad Band. They were mad, frustrated, and tearing each other down while trying to keep the music alive. Destiny took an unexpected turn again. Instead of success making them stronger, it made them weaker. Every solo move created more distance. Every business decision planted more doubt. They were still delivering hits to the fans, but behind the scenes, they were no longer family. The tension was reaching a dangerous boiling point, and none of them knew that the darkest chapter, the one written in blood, was about to begin. But here's the shocking part. The biggest storm didn't come from the music or even the money. It came with blood on the floor. On Mr. Dalvin's birthday, the group was supposed to be celebrating. The plan was simple: gather in the studio, record, and surprise him with a party. Everyone was waiting for DeVante to show up, but the hours passed and there was no sign of him. That alone was strange because DeVante never missed studio time. This is where it gets interesting. When they finally went to his house, what they found changed everything forever. DeVante had been attacked inside his own home. Strangers had broken in, tied him up, and beaten him so brutally that his skull was split open. Blood covered the floor. The craziest part, he fought back like his life depended on it, because it did. In the middle of the struggle, he bit off one of the attacker's fingers, leaving behind DNA, that later helped reveal who was behind it. Imagine the mastermind of Jodeci, the man who built their sound, lying half dead on the floor while his brothers were planning a party for him. Destiny took an unexpected turn in the most violent way possible. Two cousins were eventually suspected. One ended up killing the other, and the survivor went to prison. But by then, the damage inside Jodeci was done. The attack didn't just scar DeVante physically, it scarred the entire group mentally. How could they trust anyone after that? Fame had not only taken away their brotherhood, it had nearly taken away their lives. Suddenly, security became an everyday worry, paranoia grew stronger, and the fun that once came with making music was completely gone. Let me tell you, the attack was the final nail in the coffin. They had already been breaking apart over music and money, but now fear ruled their every move. DeVante was left with trauma, Mr. Dalvin still fought for respect, and Casey and JoJo battled their own demons with substances and personal struggles. What once started with four young men full of talent and brotherly love had turned into four individuals living separate lives, carrying the weight of betrayal, paranoia, and near death. You won't believe how tragic this ending truly was. Jodeci, the group that gave the world timeless music, could still perform, could still sing, but behind closed doors, the brotherhood was gone forever. From church pews to chart-topping fame, from a gun being pulled in a studio to blood being spilled in DeVante's own home, their journey was written in conflict, pain, and broken trust. And that is how one of R&B's greatest groups became a cautionary tale of how success can destroy the very family that created it.